Hey, what's going on YouTube? This is 300 Pounder aka Drew and Easy B. We got Commander Lucas and Big Andy here as well. So what we're doing today is we're going to just go over what happened last night with the Central State Penitentiary or Central State Hospital investigation. We're just going to discuss like what happened.
Just our whole thoughts about the whole incident that occurred.
Yeah. Big Andy and Commander over there, that was their first time out with us to do an investigation. Like, what was your expectations on going up there to Central State?
Honestly, I didn't know. It was literally just a bunch of unknowns to me. If anything could happen.
Well, I expected to see at least one person, but I did not expect someone to just drive up to us in a car.
And that was pretty sketchy by itself. So what had happened last night was we picked these two up to go to Central State, and we're just gonna go into the powerhouse building, and the first indication of something wasn't really going right was a couple individuals had pulled up and they parked their car in front of yours, and they were like talking out of the passenger side window, and the woman driver had proceeded to get out of the vehicle, and she said, what did she say? Let me get a good look at you. Okay. How did you two feel about, just somebody pulling up, blocking our car, and just saying, let me look at you after saying a couple words?
Kind of weird.
Okay.
I didn't realize she had parked on the car. You guys mentioned that. I wasn't really paying attention to when the car was really parked. I thought that she had to get out of the car and talk to us. She could have talked to us from the car.
Yeah. And the way she had got out was like she looked at you first up and down, and then I guess she didn't see you, or she got scared of you because you were the bigger one of the group.
Yeah, she even said she was scared of me.
Yeah, okay, so that was like, okay, well, that was also pretty weird. And then while she was talking this babble, the passenger started saying something. I was a little farther away, so I didn't really hear what he was saying, but you guys were closer to him. Do you remember what he was saying? What he was talking about?
Basically, he was saying that the security had been added to that building recently, because the thing we noticed that a lot of the original landmarks from the penitentiary are gone. The thing, a lot of them have been remodeled and repurposed outside of two buildings. One had a lot of cameras around it, because I think there's probably a lot of people trying to trespass on it. And he mentioned the fact that the cameras around, the only way to get in was through some old catwalks up on the top end. That, and then he mentioned the fact that there was a building further down that had no cameras, and the fact that it used to be the morgue. And then it's just like there was just too many things not adding up. Like, it just didn't seem right that he would point us to the one with the cameras, and he looked like he was really hard driving, trying to push us to go there more than he really should have.
It did seem like he was trying to push that building more than the one with the cameras, but to me, it was hard to say if he was actually being a genuine individual trying to tell us, hey, that building's a better one because there's no cameras and you can easily go in and out of that one, whereas the electric powerhouse had cameras on it. And maybe he was being honest, maybe he wasn't. We didn't really know the full intention, and we still really don't know what the intention was, but stuff kind of started adding up into a more shady situation. Okay, so after he was trying to force that building, how long were they were talking to us for? Like what, 10 to 20 minutes?
At least.
Yeah. So the woman was out being kind of not like boisterous, but more of a, I don't want to say a distraction.
Very vocal, basically.
I would say that to draw attention away from the guy. I'm not saying that's what her intention was, but it seemed like she was trying to draw attention away because I didn't really see what that guy was doing. while she was talking.
And I'm thinking there's a third person in the backseat of that car. I'm confused.
So I think there was another person in that car because after you and Luke went around the corner of the cafe, they pulled away, but they looped around one of the admin buildings and stopped in front of the front door, and somebody got out of that car. Like, okay, it's fine. And then the car proceeded to park into one of the parking spots, pulled in backwards into it, reverse parked into it. So I was watching it, and it was like, okay, one person got out, so there's one person in there. And then we talked for a second. And then when they pulled away, not 30 seconds later, another car had pulled up in a fast pace and parked next to these porta potties, maybe like 25 meters away, and then they were sitting there for a minute, and then they turned the lights off and had gotten out of the car, and then someone saw them. You saw them get out and started crouching next by the porta potties. Like, okay, so now did you guys saw that, right? Or you guys were in the back, so someone actually had a good vision of what they were doing, but could you see that? Or
I saw the car when it initially parked. I think parked up there and had their lights on. And then when they all started looking over there, this happened is when they turned the lights off. Now, those two, I'm not 100% sure, but I feel like that was probably some couple of teenagers trying to break some rules, maybe get some drugs, trying to get out of the house, whatever. I feel like those weren't related. I think that was just a very bad coincidence.
Yeah, I don't think those two that pulled up were part of the first group of people that pulled up in front of the car.
Yeah.
Because when they got out, they took off running after a minute or so of squatting down by the porta potties. They took off running. So, okay, well, where are they? So I looked across an open field, and they were walking. Toward the trees, and they kind of started looping around. But it looked like a third individual came from the street and walked down this hill and met up with them. And at that point, I lost visual of that group of people, and so we thought that was fishy. And then at that point, we decided to pull away. Right?
I think we were in the car and we pulled away to look around.
Yeah.
Now, one thing during that I wish we would have known is, remember we mentioned a guy get out of the car. We were probably so distracted by the other two, we don't know if that same guy that got out of the car got back in it. Because when we drove by, the two people were in the car again. Was those two people always in the car the whole time? Or the other guy returned the car?
I don't know.
That's the one thing we'll never know, because we got distracted by the other thing.
Sure. Yeah, so when we pulled away, we did coast past that car, and those two people were still in it, which was weird because I saw a individual go into the admin building, but I didn't see them come back out. But like you said, we could have been distracted by the other individuals that pulled up really quickly. The guy could have got back into the car, but it was just hard saying if it was the same guy or if it was a third individual.
Yeah, because we initially thought when we went to the admin building, maybe she was just lying and said she wanted to turn us in. She actually was turning us in for quote-unquote trespassing.
But yeah, so it wasn't her because she was driving.
Yeah, but someone in that car could have just said, hey, these guys are out there, they're suspicious. I found a mask and a hoodie. I mean,
it's true. And then after we sat there for a while, we looped around one of the back of the condos that they have in the back of Central State, and I had got out and walked up this little hill. There was like a concrete path that went through some trees, but I was going up there just to make sure that nobody was like waiting for us, or if there was any cops or anything patrolling about. We just wanted to make sure that we didn't get caught or anything. And when I was looking, I saw a car going by. It was that building. It was that building next by the museum.
Sorry for the background noise. We have a dog, guys. Sorry. She's fine. She's being a dog.
So anyway, right there. So it was the museum building next by that morgue that the guy was talking about. So that car was rolling really slow, kind of like auto rolling, and not coming from the car, there was like a female voice screaming. I was like, okay, well, and it's on a bad side of Indianapolis, so it was like, well, maybe it's somebody else, but that car was still going pretty slow, like they were looking for somebody. So after I had found that, I would return to the car, and that's when I told you guys what I saw up there. Then what happened after that? We drove back up to
We pulled down the road where the one vehicle was going, and then we came around one of the turns. We saw that vehicle.
yeah,
And then they ended up leaving.
yeah, and at that point, Luke, you thought you saw somebody walk into a building when we were pulling up past that road, and it was like, okay, somebody was
The lighted building.
yeah.
No, that was me.
No, he was pacing back and forth.
Okay, so you saw somebody pacing, and then you saw somebody.
They were like
It's
a
the same
little
dude.
garden area. It was like an outside like garden bench
It's
area.
like some old guy in shorts.
So did you see a guy walk into the building, or just
It looks
around?
like he walked towards a front door. That's what it looked like to me. He could have been going in somewhere. Who knows?
Okay,
He could have been like a groundskeeper. Who knows?
sure. But it was 12:30, 1 o'clock, so I don't think a groundskeeper would be walking around. I'm not saying that it's not impossible, but it just seems a little suspicious to me.
Hey, this is a joke. It's a graveyard shift for a reason.
This is true. So anyway, we pulled out, and we were about to call it quits for the night. I was like, well, let's do one more pass. One more pass? Yeah. Okay, so one more pass. So we take the next left into the
Building the guy had recommended to us.
Yeah, so we actually didn't know that building was on that road, but it just happened to be that on that little street when we turned into it. So when we drove on that road, that morgue building was on the left, and somebody saw a guy.
Yep. We were pulling by and saw a guy.
We also
Pretty sure he's in a black hoodie and brown or khaki
was just
shorts.
standing there with a cigarette, right?
Yeah. So when we got to the end of that intersection, pulled to Yui. At that point, he gave me a camera to try to get some thermal video, which I did get the video of that individual. And as we were pulling away, it was like, okay, well, we're probably just gonna call it quits. There's somebody stalking around.
We're on the building that we were told to go to.
On the building that we were told to go to by that guy. I was like, okay, I don't think, because first of all, he was outside just kind of leaning on the building smoking a cigarette. I don't think he was there to investigate anything. Two, he didn't have a light, so where was he going?
Speaking of investigation, it was funny that guy in the car knew that's what we were doing.
Oh, yeah. Well, he didn't know, but he guessed. It's like, you guys are doing an investigation.
That was too perfect. I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
Yeah.
Kind of weird.
But I could see, because if he said that he lived there, maybe he's come across more people that do it. He said that he had. I'm not saying that he was fabricating his story, but it was just probably a wild guess for him, or it could have been something more sinister. At this point, we're not really too sure. However, when we examined the thermal recording, it looked like there was just see the video yourself. saw that video. So you saw the one guy, right? It was pretty obvious. But on his right or left, there was two more heat signatures that weren't quite on, right up by the wall. And you could see that they were up forward. There was like some green behind it, and then there was like a green object in front of them, like they were crouching. There was two of them. Luke, you had thought. What did you say? It could have been a spirit or something.
Could have been two spirits.
Now, it could be possible we didn't see him with our eyes because it was dark over there. That guy was walking around without a flashlight. And then on the thermal, we saw that guy, and then there was two more heat signature objects.
Behind the guy, but in front of him.
Behind the guy, in front of the building, but also behind a object of sorts. And, you know, to me, it could have been
one of two things.
Yeah. So, one of two things being what?
Either it was some kind of spirit, because that was the morgue building, if that guy was to believe that was the original morgue, or it was two people literally waiting for an ambush, and we were tricked. We just will never know what it was without risking our lives, and that wasn't worth it.
Now, how would you come to the conclusion of being lured into an ambush instead of just like, oh, well, it was probably just a piece of machinery giving off some electrical heat or something? I mean, how did you come to
That conclusion.
that being one of your conclusions?
Because the way you set it out is the fact that any machines wouldn't be having a heat signature that late at night. Like, the only thing I could see was maybe cameras of that size, because the bibs weren't that big at all. Like, if it was some machines, they'd be getting off some serious heat, even than that thing.
Sure.
Serious heat, probably like to the point where most of that screen would have been outright red rather than some greens and stuff.
You should have been able to see oranges, yellows, the whites, and the reds with machines. But that image had the white center, so the core temperature, and then the red outline, which would be
The heat was given off.
You would think, any kind of machinery that'd be putting off some sort of heat signature might be making any noise, especially.
That's the other thing. A machine of that giving off that kind of heat signature would be making a decent amount
Even
of
a
noise.
refrigerator or a freezer or a cooler for body storage, like the morgue was, any of that stuff's gonna make a sound.
Well,
I mean, there are some pieces of equipment that won't make a sound. Like you can have a little handheld camera, and that's not gonna make any sound, and it will produce a heat signature, but nothing in compared to how big these signatures were.
Sure. And then when we pulled up the first time, we drove past it. That was when I looked out of there, that was an empty cement pad. So I didn't see any machineries there or pieces of machinery.
Well, definitely
there was
one
no
thing-
lights
Yeah.
on in that building either. That
No.
building had no power.
Windows were busted out.
So
I realized if there was lights, those would get off the heat signature of their own. Lights are one of the biggest things with heat signatures.
But
One
there
thing
was
you
no
might
light.
need to do is during the day get the layout of the building during the day, then we can probably come to a better conclusion of that.
Sure.
Because during the day we can definitely see what's going on.
Sure.
But like the other reason I think it was probably, like I said, the two options. But the other reason I'm like leaning a little bit more towards the people is that just too many things were just adding up, and it's like a puzzle fitting together. Too many things were fitting in the puzzle way too perfectly, in my opinion.
And what were those things that he's talking about, like the people setting like an ambush or possible spirits, and everything kind of falling into place with more of the ambush type scenario? What were you feeling during this? Like with everything adding up, the guy without a light, smoking a cigarette, leaning up on that building, and they started walking away when we pulled up. I mean, what were you feeling during this whole escapade here?
Okay, well, one of the first things I noticed was when the original group drove up to us, I felt that the lady was a bit passive aggressive because I kept looking over to Easy B, seeing what he was gonna do. Because besides you, 300-pounder, he's one of the leaders, and I didn't know what he was going to do or say. So I kept looking to him, and she walked up closer, and she was like, you can look at him all you want, but what I'm saying is the truth. So that came off as a bit passive-aggressive to me.
Ironically, she was talking a lot about COVID and having a strong immune system and natural things, which...
She seemed a little bit more of a, I don't want to say a conspiracy theorist type person. She had a lot of interesting information, but it just seemed like she was passively aggressive almost to the point where she was just talking.
And there was several times where I felt that she wanted you to remove your mask. Yeah.
And I wouldn't do it.
Yeah.
You know, even though she didn't directly say that, but just what she was saying at
Because
the time.
because the biggest advantage I had was not only was my mask and all that and gloves covering that, because like I said, it could have been she thought we were the gang people. Because when me wearing gloves and a mask, that means in a criminal case, I'm gonna have a lot of advantages on my side.
Sure.
No residue, no fingerprints, which would have thrown off the things. And obviously, I'm not gonna admit because she's not gonna. And the reason I didn't say what I really was wearing it for, I'm not gonna admit that to her. She was administrator of the building. That's probably not the smart.
That's what she was saying. Like, she came up and approached us saying that she
identified herself as.
she worked at the state prison. So that in itself is like, okay, so you're saying even
That
technically
has no power.
It's one of those things that I still would have been, because I easily could have said what it was originally for, was to cover myself from asbestos in our ghost hunting search,
Sure.
and the gloves are to help make sure I can lift and move stuff and not getting cuts or anything.
Sure. Okay, and then it was just weird how she pulled up, and I would say sizing everybody up. She didn't really size me up because I was standing on the other side of the car, but she was really looking at you and you.
She had a lot of fixation on you, though. Like, he's know what it's all about. Kind
Yeah.
of thing. It was just.
I just didn't want to talk to her. I was just basically agreeing and just like, okay, yeah.
Take a hint.
Yeah,
Right.
When you leave.
Like, it's one of those things that, like, I didn't take my gloves or things off in that scenario because, again, I feel like she was trying to get a look for us because if, let's say, she was a part of the ambush, the people wanted to know what we were looking like because that's why another reason I don't think the teenagers were involved. Let's just say those 3 people were involved. Those 5 easily could have probably gotten a semi-decent manager rush just if they'd snuck around. They could have easily 5 us would have ambushed us, no problem.
Sure.
They also
And easily
don't know
taken
our
one of us
skill
out
level.
before we could have retaliated.
That's the thing is.
That's the other reason I don't think they were. I think that's why those 2 off to the side of the car that were by the quarter pipe. I think that was a coincidence.
Yeah, and the thing is, with sizing people up, you can almost judge in a ballpark scenario of people if they will be a threat or not. I feel that's probably what she was doing because once they pulled away, we didn't know what was going on, but when we pulled around that work building, that guy was there. We didn't even go into that building, so we don't even know if anybody was even waiting for us inside the building.
Because the infrared wouldn't have gotten the interior.
So I mean, the guy could have been a lookout, and he's like, "Hey, they're in there."
Or hey, they drove off.
And the thing is, I don't want to speculate what could have happened. We really got to go by the facts. So they pulled up, blocking the car, right?
Yep.
The woman came out, passive aggressive, very distracting, and basically face to facing you and Big Andy there, and that's a sizing up technique that people do. And then talking for like 10 to 20 minutes, we don't know what the passenger was doing. So the passenger could have had the phone down texting.
For the most part, he didn't have one of his hands over here, so I could at least see one of his hands. It was not moving because you could see a little bit of muscle move. It didn't look like his hand was moving that much.
Sure,
But the thing is,
he text with one hand.
Yeah, definitely, but he didn't look like he was looking down a lot. He was staring at us quite a bit. I didn't recall him staring down, but no, I just really want to know if there's a third person in the car because the way the car was designed, the model of the car, it was a 2-door with the back door shaded out. There easily could have been a third person back there.
There could have been. I could not see in the back of that car.
They definitely could have been looking out that little window and sizing us up that way. No problem. It could have been
So if
texting
there's
that
a
way.
third person, he could have. So, like I said, we only really want to go by facts. We don't really want to speculate anything. So,
Yeah.
We're gonna leave it up to you, the viewers, to determine what could have happened or what you think was happening. Because the facts were, as soon as we pulled up,
two identifiables pulled up in a 2-door coupe and pulled in front of the car.
In a matter of minutes
of us parking. And we drove by there twice, but nothing happened. But once we parked, they pulled up.
Oh yeah.
The female got out and had FaceTime with everybody.
Well, especially looking at you and which I thought was funny.
As soon as they left, another car pulled up a little bit quickly, a little bit farther away, and 2 subjects had gotten out. We don't know if they're male or female teens or whatever, but they pulled up, shut their lights off after a few minutes, then got out, and then crouched, and then ran to the opposite side of the field, met up with the third person.
Sure, I think that was a scenario within itself that just happened to be there because the street that we were on, it's not a very safe street, and
It's a very
these are just going by the facts of what all occurred.
So,
And then
those
we
people,
pulled out, and you got out, was scoping out the area, and saw another vehicle driving by slowly,
very, very slowly.
and then a female
boy
like scream
was, like,
or
yelling.
voice or something that went off.
just kind of like
On your way
yelling.
back, there was definitely 2 gunshots. Not, I mean, in the distance. Not. So that was its whole thing.
The opposite direction.
It was towards the apartment
But
complex.
that just
It was
adds
behind it.
that just adds to the intensity of the event
Sure.
and how bad it really is. And then, so we pulled off and we went down the same road the vehicle was going slowly in, and we saw the vehicle at the end of the straight, and then it turned off. And before it turned off,
you saw somebody poking around that museum/board building, and then Luke, you saw the same guy, right?
and then so after they saw that, they pulled off, and then
He wasn't a well-lit area,
For
though, I
some-
will say that.
for some
so he wasn't
reason-
trying to hide, I will say that.
for some reason we decided to continue straight, and then we decided to make one more pass. We pull up again, and we're cruising by the morgue/school area, whatever he called it, and there was a gentleman with a black hoodie and brown shorts smoking a cigarette standing out there. And as I looked, I didn't see him, and then I looked forward and I looked back, and I happened to see him back, and then
He
slowed
wasn't
down.
trying to be seen because he was trying to
Right.
stay in the back.
And here's the thing about it. As I hit the brakes to slow down a little bit, he started walking backwards towards the entrance of the morgue. And then we busted a Yui, and he was standing right there at the corner.
Yeah.
And then the thermal camera also picked up 2 additional heat signatures that are unexplainable.
When we drove past with the thermal, that guy started walking in a fast pace away in the opposite direction of where the car was facing. And then that's when we had noticed the 2 extra heat signatures
Only after reviewing.
only after reviewing. So when it's dark, and I'm glad we had the thermal because, the 2 heat signatures, what if they were people crouching, waiting?
What if they were spirits? I mean, these are just 2 heat signatures we didn't see, and so we just don't know what those were as far as if it's human or something paranormal. But these are the facts, and that's what we have to go off of.
Yeah, and another fact I will say is that what I guys mentioned earlier in the video, that a lot of the original landmarks of the place are gone.
Sure.
It looks like one thing we noticed is that there's a new condo place where a lot of them were, because fun fact is I used to live over there at one point, literally right across the street from where it used to be, and a lot of that crap was not there. A lot of those buildings have been refurbished outside of 2 buildings. One that was boarded off was the powerhouse, which they put cameras on because of the neighborhood. They might want to make sure, they're trying to make sure that that apartment complex stays nice. So
And
they
that
want
could be, but those cameras were only watching the sides of that powerhouse.
We didn't
weren't looking out.
We didn't walk around the whole building.
It could have been all. We will never know though. But yeah.
So
And then the I could tell just from a little bit of the detail I got for the morgue, that doesn't look like that's been upkept either.
No, it's another.
window busted out, no lights, no cameras.
The fact is that those are the only 2 buildings out there that's not refurbished. That just seems like a conspiracy theory in and of itself.
I mean, maybe that's one historical markers, but
That's just speculation.
Yeah, you're not wrong. But yeah.
So with that being said, what do you think of the investigation?
It was interesting for a first one. I feel like that we were getting led into something, whether it was just an instant scare. It could have just been people just going to go boo and try to scare us for all we know. But there was, I'm leaning towards there was 3 people there, and on that side of town and that late at night, that was not a go at that time.
Sure. Luke, what about you?
I liked it. It was entertaining. I do like an adrenaline rush, but I do think there was some more sinister thoughts that were going through people's minds.
Okay. Sure. What about you? Yeah, it was definitely when we pulled up, it was just unsettling. But then once everything started kind of snowballing, it was definitely it was rough. Yeah, for me, red flag started shooting up as soon as that car pulled up, blocking the front of your car. Just because I know that's a technique to stop people from going anywhere. I think that there's probably about a 70% chance of something sinister happening. Unfortunately, we didn't get to do an actual paranormal investigation. However, I feel the experience was something in itself. So with that being said, Big Andy, Commander Luke, Easy B, and your boy Drew 300 Pounder. We'll see y'all next time.